wanted to talk about something today that has also come up pretty often in my work, and I just wanted to get you all's ideas on it and see, what you all thought, and also if you've experienced this before. So, working with a few couples, and something that's come up is how do we keep our intimacy hot, sexy, alive without having to utilize drugs, alcohol, or having to engage in like really serious like fights. Sometimes couples are like, man, the passion is on point, when we arguing all the time and there's always a conflict. And that just means that, again, we think about sex, and it's all energy, right? And so we can transfer that same energy into our intimacy, even if it is based around conflict and strife and all of those different things. It can translate, into the bedroom. It can translate into, working out. It can translate into any type of creative pursuits that you have. So again, it's all energy, right? But one of the things that came up was like, got a couple, let's say for instance, they, were definitely engaging in a lot of, smoking weed, drinking a lot and stuff like that. And they said that it kept their intimacy alive. And they also felt like that was their form of intimacy, because they would sit and smoke together and different things like that. And so they're just like, now we're working on creating healthier lives for ourselves, physically, but also in our relationship. We're trying to really work on the conflict that we're having and talk to each other more so with respect and understanding each other's perspectives. And so they were like, that part is great, that, we're doing that in our relationship now, but our intimacy has kind of just taken a nosedive, and we're just trying to figure out how to get that excitement back. And it's interesting because when they noticed that when they took all these things away, they were actually less confident in initiating sex with each other and initiating just any kind of form of real physical intimacy. And we dived deeper into that in terms of what is it that they fear when they initiate sex, and obviously things like fear of rejection, or if my partner turns me away, or if they're not in the mood, or whatever, they don't respond to my advances in the way that I would like, that's going to make me feel bad and not make me want to pursue intimacy as much, anymore. So again, we talked about all of those things. But yeah, I just thought, and I always find this, very interesting, when we take away all of these other things that we kind of hide behind in our relationship, and then we just come to our relationship just bare, like really bare, like totally, we may find that connecting on that level is a little bit more difficult, because we're not focusing on the main things that we can control, which is just becoming more high off of life, and like really learning how to engage all of our senses. A lot of times people don't even really realize how much sex is connected to all of our senses, our sense of smell, taste, what we hear, what we see, what we touch. And so these are just a few things that I share with couples who are just trying to like get it right, just like make that sex a lot more exciting and something to look forward to, and then also how to build their confidence too in that space. And so the first thing I would say is definitely talk, communicate, like really start getting very comfortable talking about your sexual desires and fantasies. And I know that's, everyone is not as comfortable in that. They, some people are like, what, I'm a doer more than just talking about it. But the more you can get comfortable actually saying what it is that you desire and hearing what your partner desires too, you'll be amazed at how much that can also bring back the spark. And so it's like, okay, yeah, Angie, that sounds great, but how do I do that? Where do I start? And the first thing I would say is try to start talking about sex without the expectation of sex actually happening afterwards, because a lot of times that's where the feeling of rejection, or like what if they don't respond to it in the way that I would like? What if we don't have sex? I do all this talking and then they're like, oh, I'm not in the mood, or I really don't want to do that. So talking about sex first is all about just putting the information out there. It's not about us doing something necessarily about it. It's just being able to openly express, this is what crosses my mind sometimes. You would be surprised that sometimes after you've been with your partner for a while, you think you know so much about them, but you'll be amazed that when you find out what they think about sexually on a daily basis or every few days or what have you, you'll be like, wow, I didn't even know, you thought about that, or that was something that was interesting to you or that you were curious about. So definitely start sharing those things. Like, even talk about, you'd be surprised too how often maybe your partner has thought about just sex in general, even if you all are not having as much sex right now. Because sometimes when you're not engaging in sex and then you're thinking like, oh, okay, they're not interested, or that's the furthest thing from their mind. And not always the case. Sometimes the thought is there, but the time doesn't always present itself to engage in anything, or the thought might come more so when you're working as opposed to when you all are actually together. And it's like diving deeper into that too. Like, what's the thing that's really sparking that interest around that time, that you find that you're in the mood, or you're having these thoughts about, sex and different things like that. So the biggest thing first and foremost is to start growing more comfortable talking about sex. And if you're still very uncomfortable with that thought, then start either writing down your sexual fantasies and your desires, or text it to each other. And don't limit yourself to just saying the words. You can use pictures, you can use gifts, you can use videos, like so many things that you can utilize to express what's on your mind without actually saying the words. If you feel comfortable, you can take pictures of yourself in videos. If not, then you can share like little memes, or different things that indicate that this is on your mind. Also, get really comfortable with playing around with the language. So I was telling a couple this the other day. I was like, when it comes to music now, especially like R&B, hip hop, there's nothing left to the imagination. It's just very direct. It's like, this is what I want to do to you. Bend over, touch your toes, make it do what it do, whatever, right? It is not, it's very direct, you know what I'm saying? Which is not a bad thing. But sometimes that can also get a little bit boring. So try to play around with your words, get a little bit more poetic with it, get creative with it. If you have to, listen to songs that were out, 20, 30 plus years ago, where they were talking about sex, but they said it in a way that was very creative. You knew exactly what they were talking about, but they just said it in a way that had you using your imagination a little bit more. So try doing that, and then again, set each other up for success. When you all are doing that, just let each other know, yes, we are sharing these things with each other, but not with the intent for us to like have sex right now. This is just us sharing our thoughts. And get comfortable with just sharing your thoughts without any expectations. Okay, so that's a big thing. If you can get comfortable talking about it, a lot of times that typically transfers over pretty well sexually, but you have to practice it. You got to grow comfortable with it. You got to build your confidence in there, and you'll be amazed again how so many people can engage with each other and not feel comfortable talking about sex. So that's the first thing. Again, another thing that is kind of coupled with talking about sex is obviously being vulnerable. Being vulnerable enough to share. This is another thing that I've come across, especially when I'm working with women. There are a lot of women who really truly enjoy sex. They enjoy all of the things about sex, and they don't feel bad about that, but maybe they've been shunned in the past for having these thoughts, these desires, and they may have been looked down upon because they enjoy sex a certain way, or they enjoy certain sexual acts. And if they are not embraced for being able to say, this is what I enjoy, and they're maybe made fun of or kind of looked at like, why would you want to do that? Then that can also close her off. Obviously, societal norms really just doesn't allow for being sexual. Now, society allows for women to be sexual objects, but in terms of her being confident in her sexuality and expressing it, that's actually still kind of taboo. So in your relationship with a woman, make sure that you're allowing a space for her to be able to share all of the things that she wants to do, to you, things that she wants done to her, create those spaces, even if you don't always agree with some of the things that she wants to do, but allow her to talk about it, allow her to share her thoughts, and just be like, wow, I didn't even know, that was something that you were into. So vulnerability is huge. Also, on the flip side, for men, again, we live in a society where, men, they may not always feel comfortable talking about what they desire as well. But I just want to throw this out here, to the men. I know a lot of times when we talk about things that are pleasurable, one thing that comes up a lot in my sessions is just the discussion around the prostate and how that can be an erogenous zone for a lot of men. But again, we live in a society where it's kind of looked down upon, or if you're heterosexual male, you're seen as homosexual if you enjoy being massaged in that area, or if you enjoy anal play, or if you enjoy pegging, or what have you, whatever it might be. Again, it's all a personal preference. Again, we don't yuck anyone's yum, and if that's something that brings you pleasure, for the women, allow safe spaces for your men to be able to share that, with you. So the vulnerability piece is going to also kind of bring that spark back. When you feel like really comfortable being able to share with your partner what brings you pleasure, you'll be amazed how much that reignites that sexual energy, between the two of you all, and can really boost your confidence in terms of, engaging in sexual acts, and not feeling like you have to rely on, our fights and our arguments to bring in that passion, or, drugs and alcohol to get us to this place where we can just zone out. So that's another thing. Like I mentioned before, which I talk a lot about in my book, The Intimacy Guru, is again engaging the senses. When you can really be present and really focus in on the things that around you that engages your senses, that will also bring about that sexual energy. Pay attention to what you see, and what kind of reaction you're having from something that you see visually. The smells, certain smells just do it, for us, and if that's a certain type of cologne or a candle, anything, an incense, or even just like laundry detergent or whatever that just gets you like awakening the senses, do that. Take your time when you're eating. This is another thing. We're so rushed in society where even when we're eating throughout the day, we're rushing, we're doing something in addition to eating. We're watching TV, we're talking to someone, we're walking down the street, we're in the car eating, we're doing whatever, but we're just constantly on the go, on the move. Slow down, slow down. When you can really slow down and feel things and smell things and taste things, that will also awaken that sexual energy within you because you're present. Really kind of get into that. Really pay attention to and take inventory of what you're feeling, like what you're tasting, what you're smelling, what you're touching. Think about, for those of us, I know I'm a very ticklish person, and I feel like being ticklish and like having like sexual energy kind of tend to go hand in hand. So being tickled for me is not ideal unless I am in a situation where I know that I'm ready for sex. Do not tickle me, please don't. So, like again, think about the sense of touch and the things that make you feel a certain way, make the hairs, on your arms stand up, or gives you goosebumps and different things like that. When you're able to recognize that within yourself, you'll be amazed too how much that sparks that sexual energy. So definitely pay attention to the senses, engage in the senses, slow down, be present with one another. Also engage in things with each other that's not sexual, but it can later on bring about a sexual energy. So for instance, that could be dancing, like dance with your partner. If you enjoy cooking together, do that. Take a workshop together. Another thing, stretching, some type of form of stretching, yoga, like together, like couples type stretching. Very much not a sexual thing, but it can become a sexual thing. So engage in new activities together. Just be present, with each other, because a lot of times when we're relying on substances, it takes us out of our reality. And if you can get just high off your own reality, your own self, you will be amazed at how much your sex can go to the next level. So again, being present, engaging in the senses, engaging in new and fun activities together, being able to talk very openly about sex, use colorful words, be creative, have fun. But again, you have the power to change the intimacy within your relationship. I know that it's not always easy, to do that, because it does put us in a place of vulnerability. And a lot of times we may have some type of barrier to that vulnerability. That's your job, to search deep down inside about what that is, and being able to effectively express that with your partner. Is say, I'll be honest, I don't feel as confident being able to do this in the bedroom. And this may be even more difficult for men, because they're seen as the species that's supposed to be very assertive and overly masculine, and being able to do all of these things, sexually. But for the women, please try your best to create a safe space for him to be able to talk about those things, and help him to feel comfortable providing you with what it is that you desire. But, again, sharing what each other is doing that you truly enjoy first is always helpful. We like to hear the good things that, we're doing, that we're laying it down. So, focus on that, and then you want to build off of that. So those are just a few things that were coming to mind, because, like I said, again, I've worked with some couples where it's like, hey, you know what, when we were, engaging in this, we was doing this, and did this drug here and there at a party, it was only popping. But after we take those things away, we don't have that same type of sexual energy, and we want to try to see if we can still have that without all the additives. Or, we're glad that we're not fighting anymore, and that we're always angry at each other. We don't have to worry about that anymore, because we're in a healthier relationship. But that's also something that brought, the sexual excitement to our relationship. And now that part is gone, now our sexual excitement is gone as well. So those are just a few things that definitely can help you get started to reignite that passion with one another. Let me know your thoughts. I always say that on these videos, let me know your thoughts. And I know it's not always the most comfortable thing to just say it right here, on the platforms, and share, exactly what you're feeling and what you're going through. And again, as always, you can always reach out to me directly if you have any questions, or looking to do a consultation. But again, like I said, I definitely talk a lot about this in my book, The Intimacy